Hey, Kafka here with an updated guide on Kafka. She was released in 1.2 but has seen so many changes since then, so it's only fair we cover her again. So today I'll be doing a quick kit overview since we know what she does, but then going through everything new including best relics, best light cones, all the buffs her signature received, as well as some extra discussion points like E1S1, and finish with best team compositions. Massive credits to Seraphii, who dedicated her time to writing core parts of this script. She also created Kafka simulations to give us much needed extra info, and helped me out with Kafka in general. She's part of the theory crafting staff at Kafka Mains, who are an awesome group of people, so please thank them and Seraphii. Anyway, like and sub if this helped, let me know if you're pulling, and let's begin. Let's start with a quick kit overview. Kafka is all about dot, or damage over time. It's a debuff that causes damage, as you guess, on the enemy's turn over time. They cannot crit, but still take the wearer's stats for things like res pen, def ignore, damage percent, attack percent. You just remove the crit multiplier. The reason Kafka is at the forefront of the dot team archetype is due to the fact that she can detonate her dot and anyone else's dots all by herself. Detonating a damage over time effect just means that it happens instantly and it won't even consume a stack of the debuff. The detonation will multiply the usual dot damage by the percentage indicated. So for Kafka's case, it will calculate the damage of the dot using the stats of the unit that applied it, say Sampo's, and then multiply it by 0.75 if you're using her skill, for example. So her skill will detonate any dots on a single enemy, the one you target, while still doing damage to adjacent ones because why not? This skill won't apply any dot of her own though unless you have a specific light cone that does so. Her ultimate will apply both her own shock and detonate any other dots, except this time it's on all enemies, up to 5 included. So not only do we get the initial shock application, we get a subsequent detonation, which is very strong for wave clear, and both front-loading and back-loading damage. Additionally, her ult makes her dot multiplier stronger as you level it, and actually gets so much better at levels 9 and 10 that I highly recommend just spending a little more time in that Relics to max it. Her talent will apply this same shock but single target and activates after another ally of hers basic attacks a target once per turn. This will regen 10 energy for Kafka. Her technique finally can apply her same shock to all enemies yet again at the start of a fight, and is almost always what you should be starting a fight with. Onto Eidolons, I'll only explain her E1 for the sake that it is her rerun. When Kafka's talent triggers on an enemy, she has a 100% base chance to apply a 30% dot vulnerability to said target for 2 turns. Without considering other vulnerabilities, this is a 1.3 times damage increase to all dots, including break dots and detonations. This requires 67% effect hit rate to max out the guarantee, but I recommend never going this high for the sake of your other stats. It just means extra effect hit rate in subs is no longer bad past her normal 29% needs. The rest of the Eidolons I won't be repeating, but I will showcase the same damage increases they can provide for both herself and her own team. So I hope the rundown helped anyone, but now onto the juicy info. Before I cover what's new, I think it's a good idea to remember what we had available to us at Kafka's release. Our best relic option was 4-piece lightning, a set that gives an alright damage bonus, but an almost unnecessary attack percent boost. And our best planar option was Space Sailing Station, which again gave attack percent, a stat that Kafka teams do not need any more of. Our best supports were 4-star options like Asta and Pella, and we only had Luca and Sampo available in our second dot slot. Thankfully, MiHoYo has blessed Kafka Mains with several new additions in the 4 patches since. So for best relics, we now opt for the Prisoner set. The attack percent is still there, but as a 2-piece. And the 4-piece is now a very strong def ignore passive. You'll need a secondary dot unit on her team for this set to be truly powerful, but Kafka can also go solo when considering the Pain Light Cone and her own breaks. Either way, I recommend a dot sub DPS. Def Ignore is a wearer-based version of Def Reduction, stacking with said reduction, for a lot of extra damage that attack percent cannot provide. It also works for her break dots too, unlike damage percent or attack percent. For planar ornaments, you now want to go the Glamoth Planar Set. At 135 speed, something you should definitely be hitting on Kafka, it's just a better Space Sailing Station. At 160 speed, it becomes 6% damage stronger. You'll want Glamoth either way, and this 160 speed threshold can be hit thanks to allies like Asta, or a combo of Ruan Mei's passive speed buff and Kafka's signature light cone. The main stats will be staying the same: attack percent chest, speed boots, lightning damage orb, and attack percent rope. Lightning damage will be buffing her non-break dots, don't worry. Energy Rope wasn't close to attack percent in damage in 1.2, and that has not really changed. In Pure Fiction, you have the option to run it though for fun. For an endgame stat goal, you'll want to be hitting a 3.5k attack, 29% effect hit rate, and 135 speed. If you have E1, you can go for more effect hit rate and substats, but be mindful of not losing out in speed and attack. If you have S1, the recommended speed would be 146. This can be lower of course if you consider a Ruan Mei. For Lycones, nothing really changed except we got the 1.3 Nihility Lycone in the Herta shop, Solitary Healing. It's similar to Fermata in that it's a free-to-play Lycone that increases break effect and damage, but its damage boost is only on dot effects, albeit being a larger boost. Additionally, it has an effect of giving extra energy to the wearer when an enemy with your dot applied is defeated. However, this Lycone is not a great Lycone overall for Kafka, since other options, namely Good Night Sleep Well and Patience is all you need, just beat it out, and even Fermata is basically the same as this Lycone on her. With the release of Pure Fiction last week though, it definitely has more uses now, but it has weird functionalities. I recommend checking out Dreamy's showcase of the Lycone in Pure Fiction to see why. But overall, it's nothing super important and doesn't beat out her other best. For most people, I recommend saving your bonds for the other Herta Lycones, and some more should come in Pentaconi. So her best Lycone is still Patience is all you need of course, with her second best still being Good Night Sleep Well. After that you have options like Fermata, World Cone, and Solitary Healing. Her signature though was, indirectly or directly we never know, buffed. With the release of the Prison set, you can now drop a third dot ally and still have a consistent 3 dots when using this Lycone. The only problem is 3 dots was Kafka's strongest setup, but now we have Ruan Mei for her new best team that doesn't want 3 dot units. With the release of Planar Set, you can easily hit the 160 speed threshold for maximum damage gains. This means her signature can bridge the gap for low investment Kafkas with high investment Kafkas. If you haven't got Godspeed rolls on many pieces, the gap between her signature and Good Night Sleep Well at S5 is increased. In 1.2 my calculations suggested 4.5% at max, but that was with slow ramp up. And at best, Good Night Sleep Well was only about 3% worse than a signature Lycone. Now if we consider a Kafka that can't hit the Glamour bonus, and then considering a 2 dot setup with only breaks letting you hit that 18% def ignore, well then this gap between the two Lycones increases to about 9% thanks to seraphii simulations. If you are heavily invested on Kafka or still run her old sets and teams, the difference is still going to be small, but for lower investment this Lycone is now much nicer. Finally, you don't need more than 29% effect hit rate for this Lycone, as it rolls the chance per hit and Kafka has many hits in her abilities. So even if the damage gap isn't big though, the comfort and speed of her signature is very nice, but please don't go spending if you don't want to. Kafka performs great without it as of now. So between E1 and S1 you have E1 granting much more damage benefits to your team at maximum potential, but S1 is comfy to use, helps out in building your Kafka, and could be buffed again in the future. You have raw numbers or quality of life. Kafka's rotations have not changed, 4 skills at max, but 3 skills when considering 3 follow-ups activated by allies. So 3 turns for Kafka to cycle her ultimate at worst. Let's finish up with Synergies listing all the new units that benefit Kafka's dot compositions since her release in 1.2. For a starter, Asta and Pella are still nice third options if you're running a 2 dot team. You get speed for more detonations, attack percent for more damage, or on Pella's side, you get Death Shred that can benefit base and break damage, and high skill point positivity. Ting Unit remains a great battery unit for Kafka in hypercarry teams if you don't want to invest in 4-star dot sub DPS. Sampo and Luca were her dot sub DPS options in 1.2, and Sampo is still a great one, particularly into AoE or any wind weak enemies. Luca doesn't see as much use, but into a physical weak on a break build he can do some serious carrying damage wise, as both Luca and Kafka can detonate the massive break bleed dots. But now for new releases. In 1.4 along with Topaz's banner we got a new 4-star dot unit, Guinaifen. Her best comparison is with Sampo since they're both AoE dot DPS units, but Guinaifen will be trading off personal damage for greater support and consistency. Instead of a 30% dot vulnerability on ult, Guinaifen gives the enemies a consistent and universal 21% vulnerability, and instead of her skill being bounce and therefore random, it's simply blast. Additionally, her ult detonates all burns applied, which gives her some bonus damage, which is great as this slightly offsets her lower dot multiplier. Sampo can detonate his own wind shears starting from E4. One important note is that since she is built more supportively, a high superimposition resolution Lycone is a fantastic pick for her, and it's this resolution Guinaifen build that is the typical third unit in a triple dot setup. The def reduction will scale prisoners' def ignore bonus just a little bit more too. In 1.5 we received a great sustain for dot teams, and that is Huohuo. The energy she provides can lessen the need for dot sub DPS to get their energy Eidolons for better rotations, Guinaifen needing E4 for example without her. It can also allow them to use less skill points, perhaps allowing for your third unit or Huohuo herself to use more SP for even more possibilities. The attack percent on top is also nice. She won't magically make your dot team way better, but she's a great sustain option. As mentioned in my recent Ruan Mei video, she is an incredible Kafka team support and is effectively the dot support that the team has been waiting for. Ruan Mei has completely gapped our previous dot supports such as Asta, as well as beating out triple dot setups with Guinaifen, whilst having other huge benefits over these 4-star options such as skill point efficiency or survivability. The main reason that Ruan Mei is such an incredible dot support is primarily due to what she buffs. Instead of buffing attack like Asta, she buffs damage percent and res pen instead. Kafka teams build a ton of attack but sorely lack in damage percent compared to other comps, especially those who already use a damage percent buffing unit as a standard like in Bronya comps. So these stats are incredibly valuable for her. Whilst Asta does give a very large speed buff, Ruan Mei more than makes up for it with her far higher damage amp, break efficiency, personal damage, and she even has a 10% passive speed boost for the team, which just makes building that dot comp that much easier. Even her break extension mechanic is highly synergistic with dot effects, as it effectively has all the benefits of a delay, such as the enemy attacking less often, whilst having all the benefits of a normal enemy turn, as dot effects are activated even more often as they would otherwise. You'll get 2 dot enemy triggers in a much shorter time frame. Black Swan is coming out in 2.0 and we will get info on her in a couple weeks. I'll be making a review of her with my opinions on her pool value. So it's nice we get info on her before Kafka banner leaves. We don't know anything about Black Swan at the moment. The only thing we do is that she's a wind nihility unit, just like Sampo. So it's entirely possible that she is yet another upgrade to the dot archetype. So if you don't want to pull for E1 or S1 yet, I'd recommend waiting a couple weeks. Now let's finish with team comps. Kafka, Dot, and a Ruan Mei. This is the best comp for Kafka right now, and it's not that close. As we discussed earlier, this comp is far stronger than our old Asta team, and it even beats out the triple dot team with Guinaifen too, whilst having so many quality of life benefits over both of these teams. Triple dot with resolution Guinaifen is the go-to if you don't pull Ruan Mei, and it's especially strong with high Eidolons on both Sampo and Guinaifen, and a high superimposition Pulse Lycone. Whilst it might have some issues with things like survivability without a strong sustain, due to both Sampo and Guinaifen's low base stats, it's a very solid comp that could be reasonably used into all 3 elements. For a fun pure fiction team, we have Kafka plus energy into Lightning Weak. This can function as a more nuke-heavy Serval team in Lightning Weak pure fiction sides, and is especially helpful with something like a Herta or Himiko sub DPS into either Lightning Ice or Lightning Fire sides. But they don't even need this weakness, since Kafka can provide the damage for Herta's talent or the breaks for Himiko's. This is also where the solitary healing Lycone becomes a solid option. I'd recommend checking out again though Dreamy's video on this Lycone, because it highlights some weird issues of it. So I hope this guide helped, and if it did, let me know with a like and sub, and let me know if you're going to end up pulling. Thank you again to Seraphii and any others that helped. If you see them around, please give them your best wishes. Thanks to my awesome YouTube members, thanks for watching, and have a Guoba day.